So how did I get out of it? I got out of it because Dr. Kirk Parsley, prior enlisted SEAL, he became a doctor. He was basically the doctor on the West Coast for Naval Special Warfare. And I'll tell. So Kirk's story is, I got it. Shoulders and knees, shoulders and knees. That's what I'm going to be dealing with. You know, had an ortho background, and he will tell you that the day one, 9 of the first 10 people he saw all came in and said, I can't sleep. And he was like, okay, I don't know what to do with that. So what he eventually found is he started doing hormone studies, blood draws to try to figure out what was going on with all the guys. And I was one of the early ones, and found that all of us had the exact same profile. Massive cortisol. My testosterone was down in the double digits. I was way out of whack. And what's really aggravating for some of you, if you don't know this, I had already gone to endocrinology a year before, but the Navy endocrinologist, and I've seen this with almost all endocrinologists who I don't think very highly of, had said, yeah, we noted that you were exceptionally low in testosterone and that your cortisol and your estrogen was through the roof, but you weren't psychotic. So they were like, you were still a SEAL. You were still performing at the top of your game. You still had, #1 fit reps or whatever. And so, in other words, unless you have some sort of suicidal ideology, your hormone panel doesn't, if it's by the Navy, Army, Air Force norm, they just go, hey, this person's still performing at the top of the game. And what they don't understand is the soft mindset. We'll go to the top of the game until we collapse from being dead. And that's the problem. That's what I submit a lot of you are probably doing, and a lot of the people under your command are doing, and it is what I did. So Kirk was the first person to flag it. He is the first person to also flag that my neurosurgeon, my shoulder surgeon, and my knee surgeon were not talking. And so there was no one who, and I think this is true in SOF too, because we're always like, just get me back on the X, get me back on the X. And I didn't have somebody looking above and going, hey man, by the way, it turns out that when you go under anesthesia, it doesn't just leave your system in days or sometimes even weeks. And particularly when your hormones are shut down, anesthesia has even more adverse effects. So I was continuing to try to fix myself. I would deploy, come back, have surgery, get back in a workup, deploy, like the majority of SOF in some way, shape, or form. The problem is there's no one sitting back normally and going, hey, wait a minute. There's some secondary effects that are actually more detrimental than anything else going on, and they're shutting down your entire system. And so it becomes an exacerbating problem set where you get pushed further into the sympathetic, so you're further not healing, your cortisol goes up higher, and you end up being pegged over here with no ability or no ability to down-regulate parasympathetically unless it's some extreme thing like go to NICO, take yourself offline for a way. And what I'm suggesting to you is by setting a new standard where you're focused on the parasympathetic as much as you are on the sympathetic side for your soft warriors out there, you in your positions have the ability where they can do it in small doses. If you make it a regular thing, which I now do, and unfortunately for me, the rest of my life, I probably have daily about 2 hours a day of physical therapy, either actually with the physical therapist or stuff I have to do because things I wasn't doing 10 years ago. I now have permanent crap going on, and I've constantly got to battle with cortisol. I've constantly, have to monitor those things. But I guess the answer is I now have the tools in place and the recognition and cognizance that, man, I can tell when I'm getting offline. I openly talk to my mass chief, who, by the way, is just as bad as I am.